Hello, this is Rahul from Opus. Today we are going to discuss about the basic concepts of one-point perspective and how those concepts applies to this picture right here, and how those concepts and techniques are used to create a image which gives a 3D impressions on a 2D surface. Okay, so first let's try to understand what is actually one-point perspective. It is a technique in which we try to draw 3D representation of, a given scene on a 2D surface so that we put the exact accurate lines and at the exact places so the objects come alive and we have a very accurate representations of the scene that we see in our with our eyes. Okay, so always remember, for perspective there is to start with, we always have a horizon, that is a straight line. Okay, suppose in an imaginary line from which we assume that the sun rises, or the line where the sky and the ground meets. Okay, so if you, that horizon is always is actually a straight line, and on that, suppose if we consider an imaginary point which is called the vanishing point. Okay, so we have horizon and we have a vanishing point. Now with the reference of these two, any given any scene or any objects can be drawn with in its proper 3D form on a 2D flat surface like we are drawing now. Okay, to begin with, suppose I draw a square here and I want to convert it into a cube. Suppose a square here and a square on the left side. Okay, but I want to convert it into a cube, and with the help of this horizon and vanishing points. Okay, now you imagine these two, all these reference points of the square, and if it is assumed that an image, a line joins from these three points to the vanishing point, and if I consider the uh, width of the cube to be somewhere here, then if I strengthen this line, which actually appears to go at the vanishing point itself, gives me the edge of the cube, and thus this gives me a good representation of a cube which is in actually one point perspective. Now the reason why this is called one point perspective, because all these edges, slanting edges, appears to go and meet at only one vanishing point. Okay, only one. That's why it is called one point perspective. And there are also multiple points perspective like 2 point and 3 point, which will be our topic for the next video, but presently we will focus on what it is called one. Remember, it is called one point perspective because we have only one vanishing point. Now similarly for here, if I extend the line, join these 3 points and extend it, and if I just assume that these are the end points, ends of the thickness of the cube itself, then it gives me a very accurate representations of the cube which appears to be in a 3D. All right. Now, given the basics of this, on the basic of this principle, this image can be drawn with exact, almost very high accuracy, and also you will see that when I start drawing this image or deconstructing this image is actually following the principles that I just explained it to you. Another thing, now see, this is this space. If this is the horizon, this space is below horizon. Okay, and this space is above horizon. Okay, now things become a little different when, suppose if there is a square here and I want to draw that same cube on that space which is above the horizon, and we have these 3 points, and if it is assume that these 3 points goes and meets here, then it gives us an impression that this object is actually on the top and it is somehow like flying in the air. Okay, so there is one common thing to remember, that the objects which is below the horizon, their edges appears to move upward, and the objects which are above horizon, their edges appears to move downward in 1 point perspective, which appears to go and meet that the same vanishing point. Okay, and there are two more uh, important positions to remember. Is, suppose if the object is on the horizon, suppose if I draw the square here, so this line is actually a straight line. Okay, and here you will just have this point, and this line will appear to go and meet at the vanishing point, and thus it will give you an impression that this object is actually lying on the horizon. And if there is some portion which is above the horizon and some portion is below the horizon, then your drawing this point from here, the line will appear to go upward, and here the line will go appear to the downward, and thus we have a cube which is mostly near the horizon, whose some part is above the horizon and some part is below the horizon. So that is how we this 1 point perspectives techniques are used to construct a drawing. Now let us see how these techniques, how these principles of lines and other things applies into this particular image. Okay. Now if I see, if we see carefully, our horizon is mostly in this part. This is the horizon, okay, which is roughly not roughly but a straight line. Okay, and if you carefully look at, if I extend this line, our vanishing point is somewhere here. Okay, and if I look at all the lines, if you see all these lines comes and appears to meet there, all the lines. So that is the basics, not the basic, but the underlying grammar in which this image has been drawn, and that's why it looks so realistic, because all the principles of perspectives has been used here. See, all the lines comes and meets at that one particular point, which is called the vanishing point, and thus this image is in 1 point perspective. So this space is actually above horizon, and this space is below horizon, and all the lines moves upward, which are slanting edges which moves upward, which are below horizon, and which is on the above horizon, the lines comes down. And if you look at the images, it faces it right at us. That's why it does not have any, and this is just a straight line. Okay, same for this cube. Okay, now given this, we will quickly try to draw and understand how this particular image can be drawn from scratch, and you can actually attain that same level of accuracy and also understanding of how to draw the inside of a room in 1 point perspective. So let's get this all the sketches out of the canvas and set a new blank canvas, blank space where we will draw to understand how this kind of imagery, if you have to draw into paper and with a pencil on paper, how to start with. Now to start with, you can always get a frame, like there is a square frame. Remember the image on the right side, they have used scale, but here we will do freehand because most of our examinations we are uh, supposed to draw freehands. Okay, but we will try to get as much accuracy and as much uh, uh, consistency with the lines with our hands so that our drawing looks very professional. So first you get your frame, then you roughly draw your horizon. Okay, once you draw that horizon, first is you shall always from bottom up approach. That means we will draw the bigger things first and the smaller things last. Okay, so let's construct the space of the room. So I'm drawing the back wall first, and suppose my vanishing point is here. And remember, join this point, join these 2 points, again these 2 points, and these 2 points. So thus we have the interior of the room. All right. So our entire space is set up now for the next pieces. Then you give the rough indication of that painting which is on the wall. And then this painting. So all the lines, remember, while you draw, understand that all the lines are supposed to go at meet that vanishing point. Okay, same for the bed. Now to construct the bed, you first make a ground space like this to have an understanding how much space it is going to cover on the ground on that floor, how much space the bed is going to cover in that floor. So once I have that space ready, now this can mark the height of that bed, the total height, and here I can roughly give the height of that smaller part, and then I can give the lines, and as you see, I can get the entire width of the bed in the right position. Okay, we will not go into the other details right now. First, let us put all the elements in the given space. Then we will go for the details of the objects. Now, same thing for this one. You set up the space. Suppose this is the space where you want your cupboard to be, and then you set up the height, which is a little below, and then this forms, since it is quite close to the horizon, it appears to be a straight line on the top. So thus you see, I have a rough drawing, and that too in exact perspective uh, of the image that I have referred. Okay, now we can just quickly rough out the details which is required, which is present in all the objects. Suppose this is the end of the bed. These are the pillows. Everything will follow that 1 point perspective. Rule. And when you are very adept of using this technique, you will find all your drawings to be very convincing, and you will also have your ease of understanding of where the line shall go, so that it looks exactly how we see with our naked eyes. Now, once you have this rough sketch ready, sorry about that, you can slightly, like if you want pencil, that you can slightly reduce, erase that. In the software, it is mostly called reducing the opacity. You can slightly erase and then start strengthening the lines. Like this. See, I'm exactly following my rough sketch. I'm not worried about whether my lines are very neat and very straight, because they have used a geometrical uh, scale. But if you can manage at least this amount of neat and cleanliness in your drawing, you can fetch very good marks in the examinations. Hand drawings will have certain amount of irregularities, but slowly and regular practice, you can attain that level of consistency where it will look like exactly like it has been. All the lines has been drawn with a scale with a very neat and finish, neat and clean edges and angles. So as you can see, once my basic understanding of perspective is clear, my drawings will automatically start looking like it is actually in 3D. So it's mostly a scientific understanding of how we see things in nature. And when you draw something at a surface which is already slanting, their representation on that surface shall also appear slanted. Now we can just strengthen the outside edge. and thus you have a right hand-drawn one-point perspective image. So in the examination, you can try to be a much more accurate, much more neat and clean. You can totally get rid of that rough sketches, rough outlines, so that your uh, drawing looks very neat and clean from in your copy, and that it can help you attain good marks in the examination. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you.